back, everybody, to another edition of Reactivated. Another busy, packed episode full of look-backs and talks and debates, and we're going to start, as ever, with our bot bit. A rather tricky one, I think, for this time. It's a zoomed-in shot, and remember, we're looking for the two robots who are fighting, and in which series was this taking place? Answers will be revealed later in the show. Get your thinking caps on, because now it's time for our second round fight of the semi-finals. In our fantasy fight, of course, it's between Wheelie Big Cheese and Typhoon 2. And the winner of this, of course, will go through to meet Carbide in the final. Now, what Typhoon 2, I think, has to be careful of here, like it did in Series 7, for the disc to spin up quite considerably before Wheelie Big Cheese could get in and flip. That would need it to be done. The problem with Wheelie Big Cheese is that it's not the fastest robot across the arena. Do you remember Wheelie Big Cheese's fight against Hypnodisc in Extreme 1, of course Ming 3? I have a feeling it'll be something similar. What we saw that Hypnodisc did to Wheelie Big Cheese then. Exposed wheels. I don't think Wheelie Big Cheese could get in underneath and have the time to get underneath, trigger the flip and then flip, because it was always a bit delayed, wasn't it, Wheelie Big Cheese's flip? I think Typhoon 2, far too fast, would spin, it would do its dance, come in behind, rip the wheels off, bang, done. Wheelie Big Cheese dead. There you have it. Typhoon 2 moves through to the final against Carbide. It's a battle of the generations. Of course, you had to have two winners here. You've got Typhoon, Series 7 winner, and Carbide, Series 9 winner. Oh, who is going to win this? This really is the old guard versus the new wave, isn't it? Find out next time on Reactivated. But now we are going to move on to a what-if scenario. What if? That's right. There have been many instances across Robot Wars where two robots will be fighting, and because of one disastrously unfortunate event prevented that maybe well-known robot getting further into the competition. So we're going to start with this particular robot, and it is Cassius 2. And the debate is, what if Cassius 2 hadn't driven itself into the pit? By far the more controlled, of course, was Cassius 2 against Pussycat. So if it wasn't for the pit, and of course in any other series, the pit wouldn't have even been there. You just had to press the pit release button. Cassius 2, easily the stronger robot there. So Cassius then would have been against Scutter's Revenge. And we know from the Heat Final against Pussycat which actually happened. Scutter's Revenge only went through because Pussycat was disqualified. Scutter's Revenge, motors had burnt out, it was getting very tired and sluggish, and I think Cassius 2, still the more powerful and better of the two machines, would have attacked it, flipped it, over it went. So Cassius would have won its heat for sure in Series 3. In the semi-finals, would have next been against 101. Okay, invertible, but I always thought 101 was quite an underwhelming robot. I think it did very well to get where it did in Series 3. But again, if you remember the Scutter's Revenge against 101, very underwhelming, wasn't it? A very underwhelming fight. I think Cassius 2 would flip it, use its spike at the back, push it around. It might even have gone to a judge's decision because the fact 101's invertible. Cassius 2 would have gone through, I think, to the second round of the semis, where they would have been up against Hypnodisc. Okay, now just picture this. The only reason I'm going to pick Cassius 2 as the winner here is just judging from the grand final of Series 3. Hypnodisc had no self-righting mechanism in Series 3. Cassius 2, again, more powerful. I think Hypnodisc would have had a few hits on the sides where you could actually see the innards, couldn't you, Cassius? So I think they would have had a targeted attack Hypnodisc team to where we might strike. But I think in the end, it would be a very close fight. Cassius 2 would have come out on top for that. So Next, into the final, they went against Stegosaurus. I mean, come on, Stegosaurus. Again, they also had a very good run. They were the first real pushing, ramming robot, weren't they, on Robot Wars? But with no self-righting mechanism against a flipper, Cassius 2 easily would have won that. And I have a feeling if they had not have driven into the pit in Series 3, in the second round, it would have been Cassius 2 versus Chaos 2. And I think the outcome would have still been Chaos 2. Chaos 2, the more controlled, I think, out of the two, and the lower of the ground clearance. I think it would have been such a good final. Not saying Chaos 2 This wasn't a good final. Why, God, it was a good final. But Cassius 2, Chaos 2, that's my route for Cassius 2 in Series 3. What if? Cast your minds back now to a certain fight in Extreme 2 between Mute and Mr. Nasty, and you'll get that epic confrontation and battle between the two house robots, Sergeant Bash and Refbot. For me, the new Blood tournament in Extreme 2 was slightly, not boring, but because we didn't really know the robots, there wasn't a lot you could get behind. There was the odd good fight, and yes, Storm 2 was easily the robots to beat, really, for that series. But it came in a fight in the second round of the heats between Mute and Mr. Nasty. Now, I did say boring just then, but something must have triggered the controllers of Sergeant Bash and Refbot to start a fight. Because as you noticed, pretty much towards the end of the fight, all you saw in the top of the picture was Refbot and Sergeant Bash. Didn't really notice much at the start. They just thought maybe, oh, they're just having a bit of a tussle. But no, it turned into a full-blown war. And I always thought it was because of the how boring that particular fight was. Not a lot was happening. But I don't know. I think, what do you think triggered the fight between Sergeant Bash and Refbot? I'd like to know your comment. Maybe you even know yourself that the real reason between the fight. But I mean, it was hilarious. It's probably one of my funniest moments in Robot Wars for me, and all accumulating into poor Sergeant Bash being extinguished by the Refbot. And you'd think Bash would win because, you know, Bash had a good couple of flamethrower moments trying to torch Refbot's face. And then Refbot gave him a yellow card, a red card, and then, of course, ending by extinguishing Sergeant Bash's flamethrower, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. So let me know your comments below. What on earth happened between Refbot and Sergeant Bash, that fight? I would love to know your comments below as we move on to some merchandise memory reviews. Right, well, we are doing quite well with our reviews here, and as you can see, as the hand moves across, we have the next robot to be reviewed. And here we are, the Master of Mayhem himself, Sir Killalot. He's since had a front wedge, back wedge added, and a new lance. We still do have the lance somewhere, but it's not in the best of conditions. So this is Sir Killalot. This was another Christmas 2000 purchase for us. So for Killalot, his features. So he's got a working lance that you could twist and turn. He's got a working claw, of course. The thing that stood out for me with the Sir Killalot toy was the pullback mechanism. It wasn't a pullback mechanism, it was a simple rolling mechanism. There you go. So how you, I don't know if you're used to collect, you know, machines that also had the same mechanism. Sir Killalot was built so you couldn't pull him back. Now, my only thinking about this for that is that because Killalot was very slow on telly, they didn't want him pulling back and zooming off like you see here. That's my only thinking. And the reason why I'm hesitating with this feature of Killalot, Mr. Psycho toy was also a pullback, so why they couldn't make Killalot pullback toy, I don't know. So that's the only thing that lets it down. The multi-ball release ball has somewhere decided to wander off. Bear with me. It is here. I'm going to come back to this in a second. So Killalot was again one of our first purchases, should I say. So for me, the features, I'm going to give Killalot 6 for features. The realism of Sir Killalot compared to the actual show. There's one very specific detail here. There's actually the tattoo here, and the chap who operated it, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I do know. I do apologise. It was the same tattoo of the operator of Sir Kill-A-Lot. Now, please leave a message in the comment below who he was called. I can't remember. So that was actually his tattoo, and he just personalised it because he was driving Sir Kill-A-Lot. So, attention to detail, fantastic. He looked mean and moody. I think maybe one feature I would have liked to see is his eyes light up, or at the very least, glass or plastic eyes rather than just paint. So for me, he looks relatively mean and moody like he does on the actual show. Not a complete disaster. I'm going to give Kill-A-Lot a 7 out of 10 for realism. There's my overall rating. And of course, Kill-A-Lot came with the big silver sphere into the highlighted pit and the seesaw as well. So our pinball arena was ever growing. There we go. There is Sir Kill-A-Lot in a nutshell. Well, we're nearly there again, aren't we? At the end of the episode. We've still got time to go over some questions and, of course, look back to the bot bit, which was on the screen at the start of the show. As I said before, it was quite a challenging one. I think in the winner, and well done if you got it, it was actually from Series 6 in the second round heat of 259 and Wild Things Confrontation. So well done if you got Wild Things 259 from Series 6. Now, we have some questions to get through, which first one goes to Ollie Ivy. And your question was, who was your favourite winner of any of your series? Right, thank you, Ollie Ivy. Just rattling my brains here. I'm not going to be obvious here, which I'm hoping you'll like this, because there is one robot who, for some reason, don't ask, we never kind of made it progress further into the rounds, and that was Dan Tomkier. Now, in Extreme 3, Dan Tomkier and Behemoth paired up in another Tag Team Terror tournament and won. So for me, finally, we got Dan Tomkier on the podium winning, and that was long overdue. So for me, that's my favourite winner, Ollie Ivy. Thank you for your question. Next, TBB. What was the funniest moment in Robot Wars? Well, thank you, TBB. I've just mentioned very briefly before, of course, about the Sergeant Bash and Refbot fight. For me, that was hilarious. I might even do a top 10 funniest moments of Robot Wars at some point in a future episode of Reactivated. I mean, just off the top of my head, I know you've mentioned the Chromalot and Plunderbird rivalry. I'll absolutely agree with you there. Joe Watts, of course, had his own moments of madness, didn't he? I mean, every time he was on screen, it was hilarious. Granny's Revenge. I love Granny's Revenge. I was in hysterics when I first saw it in Series 5, getting pitted and then Refbot sitting on her face. That was hilarious. The Deitor team, the Mega Morg team, they had some brilliant moments. So difficult to pinpoint an exact moment for me. I've mentioned a few there. Again, like I said, I might do a top 10 soonish. Thank you, TBB. We do have another question here. Gollum, King of Robots. Loving the name, thank you. And your question is, will Megabots ever return? Well, never say never. You know, we never rule anything out. I tell you what, if we get to 100,000 subscribers even, we'll celebrate and make a third series. There we go. Thank you, Gollum, King of Robots. I'm going to squeeze Samuel Lima's question in. Thank you, Samuel, for another good question, which is, of course, this. Who was the worst grand finalist of your series? Probably the worst, not saying the robot's bad, but the worst grand finalist in terms of how it got to that point in the competition. Probably Hefty in Series 4. And then, of course, was against Revolutionist in the grand final, and the ricochet off Revolutionist disc caused Hefty to be the winner. That was a genuine thing that happened. So, underwhelmingly so, I think, Hefty. I think no one expected Hefty to win anything, really, and neither did I, personally. I wasn't in control of the robots. Thank you, Samuel, for your question. And the cease has gone. The cease has gone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving us your questions. Carry on submitting your questions. I'll get round to answering them in the next edition of Reactivated. It's been a great episode. I've enjoyed it, of course. It's gone so quickly. But until next time, keep watching, and thanks for watching.